Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the SwansCast podcast. Lee is back again.
Hello.
And we lost Lee. Just saying. What did we say last week?
Yeah, I told you I'm going to have to stay away. Should have been my last pod last week.
No, I'm sure it's not as straightforward as that. Otherwise, probably never lose a game again, would we? But welcome back, nonetheless. Obviously, going into an international break, so we're going to discuss last week's match, which was a trip up. Well, I say up to a trip to Ipswich. Unfortunately, didn't get the result that we wanted, but a 3-2 defeat in a bit of a tough game as Ipswich go joint top. So, we'll talk all about that. We've got a little bit to talk, well, nothing really to talk about this week, but we have got an episode coming out with Kev Johns. So keep an eye out for that. I'm not sure exactly when it will drop, but if you've got any questions, if you get them in soon, because the recording of that will be in the next few days. So if you can get any comments, any questions you'd like to hear him answer, get them commented right now, and I'll try and get them in if it's there before I speak to him, basically. But yeah, look forward to that one. Again, I'll obviously put it out on social media about when we're going to release it, so keep your eyes peeled. And as always, we'll have a look at the championship table in brief, and we're going to end on a little bit of a fun sort of transfer, what we would like to see happen in January. We're going to look at maybe some realistic signings, some dream signings, and I've just got a couple of free transfers that we can discuss as well. But all a little bit of fun. Probably all will mean nothing when it comes to January, but we'll put out 2 pence in. I think we might do a little bit more of a detailed one before the transfer window sometime in December. It'd be quite fun to do, put a little bit of research into it and see if there's anything we can come up with. But yeah, we'll get to that later down the line. And last week I promised we'll touch on the investment as well. We didn't get to it, but we're definitely going to have a bit on that today. There's not an awful lot to say, but we will give our thoughts. Okay, let's get started then. So last week on the pitch then, as I said, Swansea travelled to Ipswich. Difficult game. I managed to watch the entire match. I found a nice, good quality visual of what was going on. So could definitely talk about this one a little bit more. And I think you watched as well, Lee. So yeah, let's get straight into it. What did you make of the performance?
We started really well. I thought, we got an early goal as well. So I thought that first sort of period we looked really good. And I thought, here we go, we're in for a good performance here. And then as soon as Ipswich scored that first goal, which was an absolute screamer, it was a completely different game. And we'll come on to it, but we weren't in that game at all, despite the scoreline. I think the scoreline definitely flatters us, but I think after that goal, we weren't in it at all. We were second best in every aspect of the game.
Yeah, so let's start off at the beginning. Fulton getting on the score sheet after some criticism of being included in the team somehow. I don't understand why, because ultimately Patino was unavailable and there's not really much options. So let's discuss the options, because I did go on Twitter a bit about this, because it frustrated me. I understand it might not be people's first choice to play Grimes and Fulton together at the moment. Maybe we want to see a little bit more attacking options, but we don't necessarily have that available. So Fulton comes in for Patino. If it's not Fulton, realistically, you've got 2 other players that could have slotted in there. One of them is Liam Walsh, who has not started a game all season and has barely played more than 15 to 20 minutes in any match that he's come on in. Now, I like Liam Walsh, don't get me wrong, but I don't think you can start him for his first start of the season away at Ipswich, who are sitting in second place and have scored the most goals in the league quite comfortably. I do not think that was an option to start him alongside Grimes. And the second option is Ollie Cooper, who has flattered to deceive, probably the best way you can put it, this season, and really hasn't offered anything. And ultimately, his preferred role is further up the pitch. So again, kind of similar reasons why I wouldn't necessarily start him in this one too. I don't know what you think of that, but I think Fulton was the obvious and only choice really for that starting berth.
Well, yeah, I've never got a problem with Fulton starting. I think he's a solid championship midfielder. I think we always have a scapegoat at the club, and I think over the last season and a half, maybe Fulton's kind of taken that. I think that's what I get from social media anyway. It seems to be that Fulton is the one that everybody goes to when things aren't going well, it just seems to be that Fulton gets the brunt of it. I don't know why, but sometimes he doesn't play well. Sometimes he has really good games. I don't know why he's a
Yeah,
scapegoat lately. It used to be we've had a few over the years. I think Grimes has kind of passed that on to
yeah.
Fulton.
Norton had it when we got relegated.
No, Nadu in the Premiership when we got relegated. So yeah, I don't really understand it because I think he's a good player. I don't understand. I think he's different. He's different. Some games require him where others don't. Maybe he's not as should we say he's not as well. I say he's not as effective going forward. He does chip in with some goals, but I think he's there to do other things which maybe
We
Patino
don't
doesn't
have
do.
that much
So,
of.
yeah, exactly.
I think he's maybe less glitz and glamour than some other
Yeah,
players, and more like dogged, and sometimes that's necessary. But because of that, people compare him, and then because he doesn't pull off the exquisite pass, he's not good enough apparently, or he might have lower, passing retention statistics. But that's not his strengths necessarily. He's not Grimes. He does other things, people saying when he starts and Patino doesn't, we aren't as good going forward. The only game I've seen that I can definitely get on board with that was the Watford at home.
yeah, he didn't play well against Watford.
But I think the whole team didn't play well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that was
exactly.
part of that,
Yeah, he always seems to get the brunt of it. But I don't know if this is because of this just popped into my head, but I wonder if I remember he got sent off in the playoff final, didn't he? I think it might have been since then, because Steve Cooper was. People had their thoughts on him, but he left, and then Fulton was kind of left after that red card. And I think since then he's kind of been a bit of a scapegoat for a lot of things that go wrong.
He was scapegoat in Russell Martin's first season because of Downs, which that red card meant he instantly lost his place, and then he's not Downs. Downs got a Premier League move the year after, and Fulton haven't, and maybe he isn't as good as Downs, but we're in the Championship, and he's a good level for this league. He's not even. Fulton's played in the Premier League with us. He's had Premier League games. It's not like he's not good enough, especially for the level that we are at now. He did come back into Russell Martin's plans in the second season and was kind of a mainstay in the squad, and I think the scapegoat part eased a bit, and he showed that he can be part of that sort of style. But people were questioning after Martin's first year, can Fulton fit into that style of football? But he did fit into that style of football very well under Graham Potter. He was starting in midfield before Grimes was, because Grimes was starting as a left back under Potter for the first part of the season, if anyone can remember. So, I think it's just a bit of misconception, and I think some of stats aren't always what you'd like to use, but I saw some people saying there's a direct correlation with Fulton's inclusion in the squads and our upturn in form. And there was some graphic alongside this comment. Now, the graphic suggested when we picked up a point against QPR and then went on a 4-match winning run, Fulton no longer started the games, and ultimately we started playing better. That's how basic this comment was, and a lot of people were getting on board with this as well. So, at a bite, I know it's a bite, but it has to be said. Sometimes criticism's fair when it's fair, but I didn't agree with this at all, because I think there's a bit of context missing here that's very important. We changed the formation at this point against QPR. We went to a 4-2-3-1. Previously, we were playing like a 5-3-2. So Patino, Grimes and Fulton often start in the games earlier in the season under that old formation. Changed it to the 4-2-3-1. One of them is going to drop out, happened to be Fulton. But I wouldn't credit the fact that Fulton dropped out with the reason we started playing better. More the fact we changed the formation, added that extra position up forward, with Patterson coming in as a cam or whatever you want to say. That is more the reason for me than it is the one person that dropped out. And just to back that up, Fulton came on the pitch at 1-1 against Plymouth, and we went on to win. And what was the other game we went on to win recently that we weren't winning before he came on? There was another one. I can't remember. We've beaten. My mind's gone blank. Can you remember?
We beat recently. Norwich.
Yeah, it was Norwich. The Norwich game, I think he came on before we scored our second goal. That's the one. Because we scored the Blackburn goal early, didn't we, in the first half?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to sort of, discredit that, what's the word, theory, it definitely doesn't add up. They were trying to say when he comes on the pitch, or there's a direct correlation with minutes played by Fulton to our results. And ultimately, if he's going to come on the pitch when we're not winning, and then we end up winning, completely debunked as soon as that happens, in my opinion.
But they've solved all the problems. So if we just don't play Fulton, then we'll get promoted then.
Yeah, so if Liam Walsh is starting against Ipswich, we would have won, I guess.
Solved it.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Yeah. Look, I know people get frustrated with the way the club is at the moment, and we're sitting 17th in the league, and a lot of people are used to us being higher, but ultimately it's definitely a little more complicated than that. So I feel like he answered his critics. That was the main point of this conversation, because he scored straight away in the match, got an early goal, and I think a lot of people did acknowledge the fact that maybe they were incorrect when he did score this goal. So fair play. Best way to do it, putting the goal in. So it was a set play, comes into Lowe from Grimes, free kick. He basically plays it back across the goal, and Fulton taps it in. But had to be there to tap it in, didn't he? So good start, as you said. And we did I felt at that time in the game, we looked okay. We looked like we were kind of controlling it a bit against, obviously, a strong opposition. But you are right. Ipswich scored an absolute worldie, and it kind of changed the game a little bit. So Jack Taylor, say worldie. If you're going to be pedantic, you could say maybe Liam Cullen should do a little bit better with closing down, but he was very quick when the ball gets played to him, opens his body up and literally pings into the top right corner from quite a distance out, actually, as well. Rushworth had no chance saving it.
Yeah, it's a belter. There's nothing you can do about it. When one of those goes in, you've just got to just be annoyed because it's happened. But then it did change the game.
Just shifted the momentum, didn't it?
That, especially when you're at home against an informed side, when they score a goal like that as well, it is just gonna shift it. But I don't think we help ourselves sometimes. But we can come on to that. But that goal, but yeah, as well, one of the best goals I've seen this season.
Yeah, I think after that goal, Ipswich decided they were going to turn up, and we did really struggle to deal with it. Now, look, to caveat everything we're going to say about our poor defending from this point onwards, Ipswich have scored 36 goals in the league this season, which is 7 more goals than the second most team. And I just think we saw exactly why that is. And most of those goals come when they are at home. They kind of play a style, and you could argue the scoreline does show this, even though that we didn't play nearly half as well as what they did going forward. But they kind of play a game of, we're going to score 1 more goal than you. But they do it well, and quite often it's paying off for them. They could have scored twice as many goals as what they scored. We probably were good for scoring 2, Probably scored more than we should have, you could argue. But they make an abundance of chances. You could, I guess their critics would say if they were more clinical, they would have even more goals again at 36, judging from what we saw. But clearly they're doing enough at the moment. So let's move forward and talk about some of this defending. First goal aside, because that was, as we said, a bit of a worldy goal. The second goal, and I don't like to criticise individuals, but I think Bashir Humphreys did not have his best game in a Swans shirt today, and he is still learning. That's why he's year on loan from Chelsea, and it was a little bit of a tough one for him. But yeah, what do you make of his performance and contribution, especially to the second goal?
Yeah, I think he kind of personifies the problem. Well, I don't say he's a problem, but I think he is playing out of position. I think if you think at the start of the season, we wouldn't have had Humphreys and Darling as our centre-back partnership. And I think you can tell that partnership probably doesn't work for whatever reason. I think, the injuries are not helping. But he looked way out of sorts after that goal. When they came with heavy, high-intensity attacking, which is brilliant to watch. Sometimes I think, credit to them when they're going forward. I haven't seen a team like it.
It was slicing us open like it was nothing.
Look, I'm no doubt they've probably done it to a lot of teams this season and will do all season. And fair play to them. The way they get forward in transition is brilliant to watch. But at times we just didn't help ourselves. Sometimes you just need, and what we probably are missing at the moment is a bit more experience at the back, just for someone to, just a bit of a cool head. Maybe that is where we miss somebody like Cabango. Maybe, I know he's young, but he's played in this league a lot. He's played in a lot of hard away games. We just need someone who can just boss that back four a little bit and just get that game under control, because we completely lost control for that period between like 25 minutes to half time. We were absolutely battered, and like Humphreys was coming out and he lost the ball, and they should have scored from that. And then
just before the goal hours.
Yeah, so he like that. There was a bad mistake, and they should have scored from that really. And then he kind of makes a bit of a mess of clearing it when they score the second goal. So I don't want to really hit on him too hard, but I think it's just collectively somebody in there, whether, I don't know, Grimes needs to take a bit more control and drop in a bit deeper or something, I don't know, but somebody has got to take control of that situation, because we were all over the shop, and as good as Ipswich are, I think like that was the recipe for disaster. We could have conceded about 4 or 5 there in that before. We probably should have. They missed.
It was like a 15-minute spell after they scored their first goal where it was just like,
it was carnage.
You say weather in the storm as a phrase, but it was the literal visual representation of that phrase, where we just had to weather a storm, and like I said, we didn't help ourselves, but get through it as best we could. And getting through it, only conceding another goal kind of felt like best case scenario in a way.
It was. We were just thinking, when it was 2-1, I was just thinking, just get into half time, 2-1 down. You never really say that, do you? You think, we'll try and get one before half time. But I was just thinking, please just get us into half time at only 2-1 is a victory.
Yeah.
Watching that game, because we were all over the shop. It was a bit like, I don't want to get too critical. We'll talk about it now, but I think at the moment it's worrying just because of the level of injuries we have, just all over the park, and just looking at the bench, because you always think, oh, we've got to change something here. I'm guilty of it. I watch the game and I think, oh, for God's sake, he's got to change something. It can't go on like this. And then I look at the bench and I think, well, actually, I don't know who we can bring on. I don't know how we can change it. And that's like, I'm really worried about it at the moment. I think those couple of wins that we had, like that run where we had before the last international break, where we had so many wins in a row, whatever it was, I think that's kind of just bought us time now in this period where we are struggling with injuries. And I think we just got to try and get to January. Watching that game on Saturday has really, really opened my eyes as to the situation we're in.
Yeah, and I think that it's good you say that, to caveat some of the criticism. That is a vital part of where we are right now. There's not much you can change when stuff is not working. Maybe you could change the formation back, but that wasn't working before, so do you take that risk? It's all a risk for him. He's not got an easy solution. People are going to comment to me saying this and say, well, he's the manager, it's his job to find that solution. But he's kind of operating right now with one hand tied behind his back, I think, a little bit. We gave Russell Martin all the passes in the world for having not the best squad depth at times. So I think it's fair to allow that same...
I know what you mean. The same sort of leniency on him as well, because he's not got options. I think as well it highlights that. Again, I don't want to get too critical, but I think we're carrying a lot of players in this squad. Like in general, I think now that we need to call on the squad desperately, with some big injuries, you look at it and I think, he's not even playing something. I like Walsh. I think he's a good player when he plays. But the fact that he's never fit is just not good enough. Like, we can't afford it, because now we need options, and you can't play him for 90 minutes. You can't play him every week, and I think we can't afford to carry players in this squad.
Yeah.
As much as I do rate him, I think he's a good player, and he's had some cracking games for us. We can't afford to carry players in this squad anymore.
No,
especially with
can't
the level
afford
of
to carry him.
He
He is out of contract in the summer, but since he's come back from this injury, he has been consistently on the bench. We haven't started him yet, so maybe they're managing it correctly. We'll see. We'll see if he can see how the rest of the season goes for Walsh. I feel like if he picks up another injury that makes him miss a couple, and he's done, isn't he? But if he can somehow manage to remain in the matchday squad for the remainder of the season, maybe he can. Maybe there's hope for him as a player as well, even if he moves on and that he can get over his injury concerns. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of him after this international break now, because he has consistently been on the bench since the last one. I would like to see him get some starts going into the Christmas period. The schedule's going to be coming thick and fast. So it is the time that you want to be able to start utilising him. So if they've managed him up to this point, I would like it to show that he is going to become available. But yeah, in terms of carrying other players, I didn't even notice, but Pedersen's not been on the bench again. I'm not really sure what the reason is for that.
He's been injured for a while, isn't he? He had a really
He came
good
back,
game.
though.
Yeah, he had a really good game. I can't remember which game. It was in that run where we won, and he had a brilliant game. And I remember
Was it
speaking to a lot
Norwich?
of. It might have been Norwich, I think, because I spoke to a lot of people, and then a lot of people thought the same as me, saying like he was the best player on the pitch, and then he was injured after that game, and then he's kind of not come back in. It's amazing to think how many injuries we've got at the moment, especially. I know like we're lacking up front, but when we're talking about how bad we were defensively, someone will have to look it up, but I can't think of a time where we've probably played the same back four every week, like week on week. Maybe now in the last couple of weeks.
It's been the last few weeks. It's been the same.
Yeah, because of the injuries. But
before
I mean, up
that
until
key,
that point,
but yeah,
like we can't get a consistent like back four, and that's quite important in this league. We can't get that consistency, and I think like now, even though we have got Humphreys and Darling having to start every week, I don't think they naturally fit together. I think Humphreys probably prefers to be like on the left side of a three.
I was going to ask you about that because you said he's playing out of position. Did you mean the fact that he's playing in a 2 centre back formation rather than 3 centre back?
Sorry, not out of position, but like I think he like wants to play as a left side of a 3, or even like he has played him left back a couple of times, isn't he? And I think maybe him and Darling are a good combination in the sense that they probably are quite similar, and they like to play out, and they like to sort of
quite naive a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Only saw that when Humphreys came out and lost the ball, and
he just ran into trouble.
So
he just ran into like 3 players. I don't know where he was expecting to go. I feel like he must be thinking in his head, "Oh, I'll bring them to me and then play a pass through the middle of them, and they'll have space then because I've attracted 3 players." But he just runs into them and loses the ball, and then all of a sudden there's 3 players running in on our goal instead.
Yeah, and I think. And it's not a criticism on both of them. I think they're good players. It's just if you've got, say, like we go back to say someone like Ryan Bennett, who was like the complete opposite of that, who wouldn't play out at all. Those two are very much the other end of the scale, and they together, I'm not sure it's a good recipe to have both of them playing as your back two. So I think like when Cabango's fit, it will be Cabango and one of them.
No, Wood.
Well, Wood, I don't know when he's going to come back. Probably not till January. I'm talking about like now up until through this Christmas period.
Yeah.
Wood was kind of that sort of player, wasn't he?
Yeah, Cabango's been called up to Wales, so maybe he'll work his way back into the starting lineup.
He was on the bench, wasn't he, on Saturday, but he didn't.
He's been on the bench for a few games. He did come on for a little bit in the previous game, I believe. He didn't feature in this one.
Yeah.
He came on against Blackburn in the win, didn't he, to help see that through?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the defence changes. Timon as well in this game, I think, to give Humphreys a little bit of leeway. I don't think Timon necessarily helped in some of his troubles because he seemed to be never there when he needed him to help in defence. He was always too far up the pitch. And when Ipswich were breaking down that side, he wasn't able to get back and prevent anything from happening. And I think in that period of the game where they were clearly well on top, maybe you don't push up as much just for a bit.
Yeah, something needed to change there. I've never seen a spell like that for a long time where we were under the cosh, and I mean we were proper under the cosh. Like I said, we should have conceded about 4 or 5 in that first half, but I don't know. Like I said about carrying players, though, how many players are on that bench week in, week out and never get on the pitch? Like you may as well not take them.
Yeah, but I feel like we're not carrying the youth players, are we? They're just not there's no one else.
No, not the youth players. I mean that tells you everything you need to know, that we've got youth players on the bench that have never made an appearance, because that's just because we've got to fill numbers, and that's even with the extra amount of subs you're allowed these days, we still got to fill. We're still struggling to fill the bench, so I don't know. It's a bit worrying for me. We've got players like Choa on. We signed him. Like, is he playing, or can he play? I don't.
He did say at the start he was signed for the youth team, didn't he?
I don't know.
That's what he said. He said he was signed for the youth
fair
team.
enough. Fair enough.
He's obviously getting included in the squad because Pedersen is not there, I guess.
But like Norton's on the bench. Could you?
He came
maybe,
on though.
Yeah, but could you maybe put him in the middle of a three just to mix it up, especially when we're under the cosh that much? I don't know. This is the depth. This is probably the depths we're in at the moment.
Maybe Norton's got a bit of a part to play in terms of if those two in the back are struggling, if they're a bit naive, maybe he's.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
That
Someone experienced in the middle of those two, I think, would help. Especially in like a scenario like that where we're proper under the cosh. But I don't know. I mean, Norton has got his weaknesses as well now at this stage of his career. So yeah. And again, I don't know how much criticism we can put on the players and on the manager at the moment, because I actually don't know where we are. I can't remember a time where we've had so many injuries, and Patino was suspended this week, and then like Cullen will be suspended next week. It's just one thing after another. And when Grimes went down for a while and he was having treatment and he looked like he was in agony, I thought, oh my God, this is like the end of the season if Grimes is injured as well. So
yeah,
I
if
think
Grimes had gone down, I think Walsh would have had to decide he's never getting injured again for a bit. So
it's a bit of a worrying mess at the moment, I got to be honest. And I think I've watched some games this season where, like Saturday, where we've only conceded 3 goals, but we could have conceded 8, and that is quite worrying. And I think somewhere along the line, I hope I'm wrong, I think somewhere along the line, if we carry on playing like that defensively, we're going to get an absolute hiding somewhere. Like, I mean, we got Leeds away coming up soon with the firepower that they've got that we know all too well, like Perot and Dan James. I think it's a bit. I think there's a game somewhere where we could absolutely get annihilated with the chances that we give up.
let's hope it doesn't happen. It hasn't happened yet. So as much as you're saying,
but like I know, but like the Leicester game, for example, they only scored 3, but some of the chances they missed, my God, like and Ipswich on Saturday, they missed sitters, and the saves Rushworth's had to make. I know.
You have just named the top 2 that are clear of the league by some margin.
I know, but they haven't put 8 past anybody, and they literally should have done that.
No, but Ipswich have put 4 past people.
No, I know, but I've watched. That's not just Ipswich and Leicester. I've watched like Millwall away, which we won. Now, they had so many chances, and Rushworth made some worldy saves in that game. There's just, I don't know. I find just at the back at the moment, there's a lot of papering over the cracks. I think because we haven't been hammered on the scoreboard, and it looks good. Like Ipswich and Leicester are the top scorers, and they only scored 3. But when they watch the games, they should have scored a lot more, and we were cut apart there.
Yeah, well...
Anyway, it sounds all doom and gloom, but it's just because of the injuries and everything. I don't know.
Just to add context to your point, Rushworth did make 6 saves in this game against Ipswich. I will say it was one of the games where I feel he's had one of the biggest contributions to keeping the score down. But just, on the contrary to what you just... to further back your point, up against Millwall, he made 5 saves. So yeah, I mean, he did obviously make an impact. You could argue that goalkeeper's there to do that. We've got a good goalkeeper, and he's doing his job in a good way. But you don't want him to have to be making them saves, do you?
Yeah,
he made 4 against Leicester. Yeah. 4 against Leicester. I just highlighting these as is this a bigger problem going forward? In every one of those games mentioned, he's made more saves than the opposition goalkeeper as well.
Yeah, this is what I mean. I think when you look at the scores on some of the games, you think it doesn't look that bad. But there's been so many games this season where I think we've given up so many clear-cut chances. It's not just like, they've had a couple of half chances. It's not like they've battered us. There's been games where the amount of times you've gone and gone, oh God, they should have scored there, or he should have scored that. That's what's worrying.
Yeah. It was 4 against Watford, 3 against Sunderland, which, to be fair, that's not so bad when we had a man sent off.
Yeah, Sunderland's different because of the red.
And Plymouth away, he made 6, and Plymouth's keeper made 3. I mean, you could argue it's because we put 3 goals in, but still 6 saves away from home when you win 3-1 is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of. I'm surprised the stats back it up, but I'm happy that they do. It kind of shows that we are giving up a lot of good big chances, and that's what I'm saying. That I think one day there's going to be a game in the league where all these chances do go in, and Rushworth doesn't pull off these amazing saves, and we could go down like 5 or 6-1. I hope that doesn't happen. But what I've seen defensively, and especially with the problems that we've got with injuries and consistency, I think it could happen, and then the critics will come then because this reflected in the scoreboard, isn't it?
Yeah, 5 against Blackburn away as well. Just
yeah. See, it's yeah.
They missed 3 big chances by all accounts.
So it does kind of back it up. But
anyway, not to beat that to the ground, but maybe we'll see some defensive improvements when we have full availability in the squad. But otherwise, not really sure what to suggest there. It's difficult one. I know he's made so many defensive signings that even when they're all available, if it doesn't improve, what you say at that point? Because the only thing you can say is they were signed for a different formation. So does he attempt to go back to that after he signs a few more players in other areas? Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, I think it's hard to really judge where we are until I think everybody's fit and we do get a bit of consistency, and he's playing, the formation that he wants to play every week. But yeah, it's we're lacking at the moment.
The bottom line is they did not do the transfer window in the summer to play the way we're playing right now, in terms of how we're lining up on a pitch. And that could even be, you could even include there in the way that they signed the wing backs.
Yeah.
Maybe the centre backs aren't so much the problem, and we don't necessarily notice it with the wing backs because they perform well going up the pitch. But we essentially signed them for wing back roles, but they're all playing as full backs right now. Quite a lot of our chances do come in from wide, so it could be a case of that is part of the issue. And then if you look further up the pitch, maybe when you've got like a Liam Cullen playing out wide, is he supporting the wing back or the full back as much as a conventional winger would when it comes to tracking back and defending, because he's a striker by trade. I know he can play out on the wing, but him tracking back defending is not what he's going to be wanting to do. I was just wondering how much of an impact all these little things can have, because the players that we're playing, they're not all in their perfect position. As we've said a lot of times in recent history, but maybe that is all contributing to where all these chances are coming for the keeper to make
definitely
significant impact with the saves.
We know Cullen's not a winger; he's a striker. I think I had someone told me, and it was a bit of a rumor on the grapevine, that after the Watford game, which we lost at home, apparently Cullen went into the players area or whatever it is, players and family area, and was not very happy and making it vocal that he wasn't being allowed to do what he wants to do and he has to stay out on the wing, something along those lines. And then the next game after that was Blackburn, where he cuts in and scores. So that was quite interesting. But
he thinks he was just a case of stuff this, I'm doing what I want, and scored.
Or he was allowed that freedom. I don't know, but you can see what the point is. Though I think, like you said, he's not naturally that player, is he? When you've played, all your career as a striker, and now you're playing as a winger, it's not it's not easy, is it? Playing out of, like you said, being on the wing is that there's work has got to be done going backwards as well.
I do understand his frustration, but also, what do you want the manager to do? Do you want to be on the bench for Ollie Cooper to start instead of you, mate? Because that's the only option at this point.
Yeah, no, but I can understand when you've lost a game as well.
Unless he thinks maybe he thinks he should be there instead of Yates.
Well, I think there's a case for that at the moment. So,
yeah, maybe. Right, let's talk about some of the other stuff from the game before we use all of our time again. Okay, speaking of Cullen, let's stay on him. 2 yellow cards. Now, on the back of Charlie Patino getting sent off in the previous game and obviously being unavailable for this one, where we didn't realise at the time, but since our last podcast, is it PGMOL? Is that what they're called?
Oh, yeah.
The Referee Association or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Have come out and said both yellow cards were incorrect and were not yellow cards. Both of them. Not just one of them. So he shouldn't have even had a yellow card, let alone get sent off for having 2. And they've clarified that is the stance, that they were both mistakes. So shocking, really, when you think about it. But ultimately, I think it's a similar situation here. I don't think we'll get the same acknowledgement, because the first one was for dissent. I think they won't say it was incorrect, they'll back the ref up. You don't know what he's written in his report. There's a lot of handbags, there's a lot of players involved. But from what I saw from looking back on the match, Cullen doesn't really do anything. Fulton, if anything, brings down the man who falls. Maybe a little bit of an ankle tap, though it's arguable whether there was anything or if it was accidental. That's not the point. The guy got up and wasn't happy with it, and ultimately that's what started the handbags. Cullen was just standing there while one of the Ipswich players comes steamrolling in and just barges him out of the way. And he just gets back up and just gets back involved, but without any sort of... He doesn't really do anything. He's just there. So I'm not really sure why Cullen gets booked in that situation out of all the players. He wasn't the one that had his arms on anyone. He wasn't pushing or shoving that much. There was other Swansea players that were doing that a bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that was the correct decision. And if you look at the second yellow card, he's tracking, I don't know who it is, the Ipswich forward back, who's running in on goal. Cullen's directly behind him, kind of already lost the run, if you like, but following him. Maybe he's got his arm up on touching his shirt or whatever, not pulling, but just keeping in touch. Ashby's coming in from the side then and gets his leg in front of the runner, which ultimately brings the runner down. And Cullen then gets bundled over on top of him and gets a yellow card for it. Now, for me, Ashby's the one that brings the player down.
Yeah.
And Cullen gets the second yellow card. You mentioned, didn't you? Like, why didn't Ashby kind of say, look, it was me that brought him down? I'm not sure if it would have changed the result. It's like he didn't even try, and you're going down to 10 men.
Yeah, I think you would have if you were going down to 10 men. You should be saying, like, look, it was me. I brought him down. You've got it wrong. Like I said, they probably wouldn't have, like you said, they wouldn't have changed his decision, but it's worth a go, isn't it?
Yeah, but he didn't even try, did he? He was like, it felt like he was quite happy to not get punished for it.
Yeah.
Rather than think of the team, if you like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Unless he thinks that Cullen's brought him down because he's fallen on top of him. Unless he but
he's fallen on top of him because he's already going down.
Yeah, either way, the ref's got it wrong again. Because it's just another poor referee and display is a couple of things in that game.
Another thing, which this one to our advantage, but a disallowed goal from a corner.
Yeah.
Which I meant to check before we came on, but I was so. I was looking at the referee rather looking for a reason for him to not give the goal, rather than looking at the goal itself, because obviously it wasn't allowed. But there's a run from outside the box that one of our players just ignores until it's way too late, and then decides to start chasing him. But he's never getting there, and it's the easiest goal you'll ever see. Very poor defending. I didn't check who it was again because it was disallowed. I was looking for a reason why it was disallowed and couldn't really see one. The only thing that it could potentially have been was Bashir Humphreys is defending right next to Rushworth in the goal, with the forward kind of back to Humphreys, pushing him back into Rushworth. And I think because of the nature of where the ball ends up in the back of the net, it goes directly into that space. The referee must have decided that was impeding the goalkeeper. That's all I can think, because I can't see any other reason. It is soft. We had one a couple of weeks ago that was equally as soft that got disallowed. So you could say what goes around comes around, but regardless, it's not an excuse, and both of them are poor decisions. If that is the reason, though, what I will say is, if that's a rule and that's a reason to disallow a goal, it's fine, but it needs to happen all the time.
Oh, I know. I'm just fed up of all these grey areas in the game now. I think it's kind of boring. Like, we don't want to talk about refs all the time. Sometimes it seems petty when we lose a game. We're like, oh, refs are bad. But I don't think that had a bearing on the result this time. But the one against Watford did, where we would have gone 1-0 up. But you just want to see, like, I'm just fed up with the grey areas. Where's the consistency? Like, how can one thing be a foul one week and not the next week? Like, surely there's got to be a way of, having some sort of rule-based approach where, this sort of contact is not a foul, or we're looking for this sort of contact in the box. It's just getting ridiculous now that it's different week in, week out. And that was a poor decision as well, that one, because I'm with you. I can't see why he's disallowed that goal. I mean, we'll take it. Ultimately, it didn't matter, but it's poor.
Yeah, it is poor. This one didn't matter, but ultimately, straight away afterwards, you could argue he gave a soft penalty away, maybe because he thought this shouldn't have been disallowed on hindsight. I don't think it was a penalty, but you can't argue with it because it's just a disallowed goal. But that's not the point, is it? You shouldn't give leeway for things like that, but ultimately you don't mind because they deserve to be ahead by another goal. Ashby it was, wasn't it? That was kind of lost his man in the box. That is flailing arms, and the players, in my opinion, used that to his advantage to buy and win a penalty. I think it is soft. You can't necessarily say like Ashby has given the decision to the referee to make because his hands are up on the player, but you see far worse manhandling that don't get penalties because refs are like, it's that argument in there where you say, oh, well, that's a foul anywhere else on the pitch, but if it's in the box, you're not going to give us a pen. Well, this was like the other way around, if you like, where you think that gets let off everywhere else on the pitch, but he has given the pen. And again, grey area thing, but weird decisions and inconsistent and frustrating.
Yeah, I think my only I totally agree with you. I'm not going to dispute that. I think the only thing is, like you said, I think when you, because of where they are in the box as well, like they were kind of on their own, like separated. It's kind of highlighted, isn't it? And when you put your arms up, you've kind of given the striker every chance to take advantage. That is similar to, I remember a couple of weeks ago in the Man United game where Rodri was like running through and Hoyland like just sort of puts his arm out, and it's very, very soft, whether he gets a penalty for that. I don't think it should be a penalty in both cases, but I think you've given the striker a chance to go down, haven't you?
Yeah, it's kind of like he sees the arm, because Ashby's keeping his arm up because he's just losing him on his run. So he kind of has his arm like stretching, like, oh, I want to stay with him. And the striker kind of uses his arm to sort of clothesline himself and goes down. It's the best way I can describe it, but gets the penalty. And ultimately, they get the goal they should have had minutes earlier. So we can't be disgruntled from the match perspective, and they deserved that lead.
Yeah.
But just the refereeing, just a bit, again, shocking after the previous week, which was bad as well. Like, it's just every week at the moment, and we don't want to keep talking about it, but it is key moments. Like you said, this one didn't really affect the result, but they have done.
Yeah, it's just something. It's going to be. I think it's just going to be something every week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whatever game we watch, I think there's going to be like some sort of mistake every week. So
yeah. Last thing to talk about from this game then, it did end on a positive, and we had a bit of a hope of getting an equaliser towards the end because of a solo effort from Jamal Lowe, who is played in up the wing and manages to run around the outside of the defence into the box and cuts back in. The keeper ends up on the floor, and it ends up being a tap-in for Jamal Lowe, but an incredibly good run, good solo goal. And that's just what I want to see more of from him, any of our attacking players. Ultimately, he probably is the only one that's going to do it because he is the only one that's really a winger. I personally think Jamie Patterson's gone really quiet again lately as well.
Yeah.
We'll talk about him maybe next week, but just in terms of that spark, Jamal Lowe for me is the only one that's going to do it. Cullen, we said, not a winger. So yeah, I would like to see him taking on players, running at teams more, because that's maybe we need to get him behind a bit more and create these opportunities. And look what happened out of this one. I think when we were watching, we were talking in WhatsApp and saying like, Ipswich are so good going forward, but all of their players are just having a go. They're running at us and playing them balls in behind, and we just kind of get to a defender and then don't try those things. On the occasion, Jamal Lowe did and backed himself. He got through and scored. So it'd just be nice to see a bit more of that going forward.
Yeah, that's what we've been desperately missing, isn't it? Just someone who can. I think we've lost that when Janelli got injured, but we just desperately need pace, I think, and you can see what it does. Like Ipswich have got it, like you said, had it all over the field. They had 3 or 4 players just bombing at us, and it's hard to defend. And Lowe doing that later on in the game. In all fairness to him, I think he was quiet most of the game, but that was brilliant. In all fairness, and you're right. That's exactly what we've been missing.
Well, I said a few weeks ago he's been a bit quiet for me, and his penalty goals have bumped up his numbers, and I think kept people a bit happier than maybe what they should be with how he's played. But this is what I wanted to see when I was saying those comments. So it shows that he's still capable of doing that, more open play, attacking threat, and I want to see a little bit more of that from him going forward. Right, let's move on then. So let's go to 2 up, 2 down, looking at the championship. We'll briefly go over this one. So for the 2 up, I've got Leeds this week. So they've closed to within 8 points of first place, who are currently joint first, actually. Leicester and Ipswich on 39. Leeds now sit on 31 with a win over Plymouth on the weekend, as Leicester also dropped more points. But we'll talk about them in the down part in a second. But yeah, so they're 8 points within to first. So maybe the automatic promotion race isn't quite over like we all thought. If either of those teams can have a little bit more of a slump. Leeds seem to definitely have found their form.
Yeah, I think I think it was always going to be the case with Leeds. I think at the start of the season, I think we had them in down quite a bit, didn't we? Just because we didn't know what was going to happen. But as soon as they made a couple of sign-ins and they got their squad a bit more settled, they were going to sort it out. And I mean, it just seems every week that it's Dan James and Perot that are scoring, and I'm absolutely dreading when we go to them in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty, is it? Ipswich then, they go level top on points, as I just mentioned, with Leicester. That's a crazy fairy tale story from them coming up from League One, maintaining that form that done them so well all calendar year after a promotion is kind of insane, really. They're in good company with the top European leagues in terms of form for the season, in like the top 3 or 4 or something ridiculous. So fair play to them, and if they can keep that going, they deserve everything that's coming with it. And obviously we had the brunt end of it this week, but it'll be someone else next week, and so on and so forth for them. Norwich then are I meant to put Cardiff, not Norwich, but basically the reason is because Cardiff allowed Norwich to end their run of very poor form, because they allowed Norwich to have a very late comeback win at home. So Cardiff was meant to be the negative. It's a kind of a one of each, I guess, because Norwich come out of that really good. They haven't won for a while. They were under a lot of pressure, and they were losing very late into that game, but ultimately managed to turn it around to get a late win at Cardiff. And Leicester, the other one in the down, first back-to-back defeats for them this season, with another loss, this time to Middlesbrough. Has the bubble burst, or is it just a blip?
Yeah, I say they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be, with just through the number of games and the intensity of games in the championship. Nobody, I know teams do run away with it, but not totally. They will have a bit of a dip in form, but I'm sure they'll pick up and run away with it at some point.
Indeed. So they've actually still only conceded 10 goals this season, which is significantly better than anyone else. I think the next lowest is 16, so it says it all, really. Their defence is... they might not be scoring as much as Ipswich, but they're doing very well defensively, and it's not like they're not scoring either. They've still scored 29. But they lost 1-0 to Middlesbrough. Yeah,
fair play to Ipswich, though. I think going back to that, like just to that they are, they're the same points as Leicester now, and they had a bad result in the week, didn't they, Ipswich, where they drew with Rotherham away, and they should be top on their own, really. But
and Ipswich have only lost 1 game, and Leicester have lost 3 now.
Yeah, I saw, kind of does put into perspective what we had to play on Saturday, but not excusing us. But I mean, Ipswich are the real deal. But it's probably something we can talk about in another podcast, maybe when we sort of talk about like transfers. But I think the Ipswich model just shows what you can do when you've got a steady squad. They've essentially got a lot of the same players that they came up with. I think the manager's been there for a while. They've had that squad for a good 2 seasons, and they've just got that way of playing, and they all buy into it. And I think that's just what you're seeing. Like a lot of times, especially with us, the turnover of players and staff every season is just not going to work long term, is it?
No. Nope. It is not. But we'll see. We got a lot of... Well, we'll talk about it now, actually. Let's just move on to that. Speaking of turnover of players and staff. News and rumours. We've got some news this week. We said we were going to touch on it last week. We'll talk about it now. Swansea City have some new investment. 3.5 million has been injected or invested from basically the ownership team. So Swansea City Football LLC, which consists of, all the owners that you know of, Andy Coleman, Jason Levin, Steve Kaplan, and Jake Silverstone. So basically they've invested more, which dilutes the ownership from all the minor investors further. I think they had some investment in the summer from the same group, and they talk about in the article I'm reading from BBC that potentially might be more needed this season. They cite reasons being the increased inflation, which obviously has affected football club as well as the rest of the world. I don't really know what to think about it. They obviously are putting money in. They're saying they've got money for players available. There's some new weird roles being created at the top end of the hierarchy. The trust seems to welcome the news. I guess the bottom line is they're putting money into the club, aren't they? People always say about them taking money out, but this group is putting money in, and I don't think they would want to do that to lose the money. So you'd like to think it's for the good reasons, but only time will really tell what comes of this, really.
Yeah. I think look, if they're putting money in, whatever it's for, it can only be a good thing. I think they said, which was a little bit worrying to me. I think I haven't got the statement in front of me, but didn't they mention it could go towards like the working capital, which is kind of like
it's just the running of the club, isn't it?
I know that's a little bit worrying, that statement, though, just saying that we needed that cash injection to kind of keep things looking over.
I think it's important to say at this point, most Championship clubs are struggling right now because of the financial situation of the world, and it perhaps shows how important aiming for promotion is, but also why the transfer activity has been quite low recently across the league, especially when fees are involved. Maybe they're putting money in to protect the run-ins of the club, knowing that they need to keep some of what was already there from player sales for more players. But we'll see in January.
Yeah, no, I think I think January will tell. But it's weird that, I don't know, I'm just not expecting us at all to make a lot of moves in January, especially with how active we were in the summer. But maybe injuries are playing a part in that. But we'll have to wait and see. But you are right, I think. And I think now this is why we're seeing teams like Leicester come down more often and just absolutely hammer the league, because the parachute payments are taking clubs so far ahead. Whereas Ipswich are kind of breaking that rule at the moment, but teams in the Championship are struggling to keep up with the teams that come down with the amount of money they've got, and then the parachute payments on top. I think the gulf is becoming much bigger now because there's a lot of Championship teams struggling, especially if you're in that middle pack.
Yeah,
like us. I think we just can't compete, and we're not going to compete.
You just need to get it all right in one season and have that magical season that kind of gets you over the line. But it's very, very tricky, and that's the reality, and maybe why expectations need to be kept in check sometimes when we talk about poor form and all the rest of it. Every other team's probably going through similar
I
things.
think this is the beauty of us doing the video a couple of days after the game, because you kind of have a chance to digest the result and look at the bigger picture, and because we always have a knee-jerk reaction to me on WhatsApp, like while the game is on and straight after, and you just got so much to say. But then now having a couple of days to sort of think about it, and you're just like, right, okay, we have got an absolute truckload of injuries. Let's just wait and see if we can get through this spell. You kind of take, and then now I've kind of appreciated more over the last couple of days, like how good Ipswich actually are. As worrying as we are defensively again, but we'll see what comes of that.
Okay, so last bit of news: half-season tickets are now available if anybody is interested. Speaking of money going into the club, but they are now available. Okay, we haven't got that long left, about 5 minutes or so. So we'll try and squeeze as many of these in as we can. As I said, we are going to do a little bit more of a longer in detail video on this, but I thought it'd be a little bit of fun. So, do you want to name one each then? A realistic sign-in. Let's do realistic last because it's boring. A dream sign-in that we would like to sign in January then. Kind of when I say dream, I don't say like Messi. Say like,
I was going to say how dream.
Someone that's borderline. It could happen if all the stars aligned, but it's not going to happen.
This is going to need some thought. Have you got one?
Well, I was looking at the free transfer list. I'll give you two.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Jesse Lingard is on a free transfer. He's knocking about without a club at the moment, and obviously he had his trade in the promoted team last season to the Prem. He's 30 now. Maybe he could drop to the Championship. Probably not. Probably wants so much money. But he's on the list for a dream. And I'm not saying he's my dream player. I just think he would do good in the Championship. We need someone with some attacking quality. So
yeah, like
and
that. That's a good one for that category. Yeah.
I'll give you another one. Danny Welbeck is out of contract for Brighton in the summer, 32. Bit of experience, someone score some goals, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's too good. That's too good for the dream one. Yeah, I can't see it happening.
Have you got one?
I was looking before the thing, and I kind of always have a bit of an eye on our ex-players, and Brewster comes to mind as kind of a, not a missed opportunity, but unfinished business. Yeah, that's the way I think. And he's not playing. I know he's injured at the moment, but he's not really playing much in the Premiership.
Yeah.
And I think if that, and again, I don't see it happening, but as a dream move, I think he would be good, especially in this system. He's got a lot of pace, and the way I think it would suit us very well. I think I'd like to see Brewster, but yeah, it's not that.
Okay, I listed
some. Dream,
yeah, we will. I listed some free transfers. I'll go through all of these. I'll list them off quickly. That they kind of are realistic, maybe or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you can answer. But some names have stood out for me that maybe we could explore. They might not pay off, but we could have a look at. Helder Costa, 29 years old now, right winger. He obviously was at Leeds before, but he's free transfer. Anwar El Ghazi, again, he's been released by his club recently due to his political stance with the current ongoings of the world. But definitely a quality player that is available. We need wingers, and there's another one there. Tarek Fosu, I'm sure we were linked with him in the past, eh? He's left Brentford. Is it the same person? Was it two Fosos? We were on someone before, wasn't it?
I think sure it was it. We were linked with him, yeah.
It's just got, I was having a look at him. He's got a few names. So it depends what we were calling him before. But Tarek Fosu, 28, again, winger. He's a free transfer now. We were looking at him potentially before on loan, weren't we? So it's something we can explore. And Luke Freeman, a central attacking midfielder, 31 years old, now released by, I want to say Sheffield United or Nottingham Forest, one or the other. Slips my mind, didn't write it down. Experience in the Prem, in the Championship. Again, attacking player that we need some of those. So just people that we could pick up, maybe, or if we tried. I guess it depends on wage demands for all of those. Probably can't afford any of them, but they were on my list for frees. And then let's pick, in terms of realistic, Christian Fletcher is currently in our youth team. Scored against Aston Villa in the week, in the under-23 game. Scored 10 goals this season. I would not be surprised to see him mid-permanent in January. That is one that might be on the cards. Duff spoke about potentially including him in the first team in the coming weeks, months. One that we have been linked with is Will Evans from Newport, a striker. A little bit of a Hollywood story behind him, coming up from lower leagues. And I think he played for like Barrytown or something, or Bala, one or the other. And he's got into Newport. He's doing well. He scored quite a few goals for them, and us and Huddersfield apparently tracking him. So, a bit of a lower league one that might be a reality to that one if the reports are to be believed. And then I listed a few people. So we got Josh Sheehan. Now he's a product of our academy. He's recently been getting called up to the Wales squad. A central attacking midfielder, played for Fulton, doing quite well in League One. Could we re-explore that?
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe. It's not a bad shout.
I got Hannibal. He spent last season on loan at Birmingham from Manchester United, a 20-year-old, but he's got, he basically runs out of contract in the summer. So if you want to stick to the youth, future potentially sell-on fee and all the rest of it, maybe someone we could look at. And then if you want to look at midfield as well, we're a bit more experienced. There's two. Will Hughes, out of contract in the summer with Crystal Palace, 28 years old. And Emiliano Marcondes from Bournemouth, again 28, out of contract in the summer from Bournemouth. So I don't know if they are realistic or not, but I feel like if we want to break the bank and make a statement, they're players that we could have a look at.
It's good though. There's a few. There's a few out there. I think if we can, if we can be a bit clever in the market, we'll see what's out there. I tell you what, I don't want. Though. I don't think. Well, I don't know if we can actually. I'm not sure where the limit is, but I don't want any more loan players.
Well, 5 on a match day squad's the limit, and we already have 5 usually in a match day squad if they're all there.
Yeah.
So, But anyway, that brings us to the end of the video. So thanks, Liam. I know you've got to shoot off to do some fun revising, so enjoy that.
The choice.
And good luck for that future exam. I'm sure everyone will join me wishing you good luck for it in a couple of weeks. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think about our transfer options. If you tell us we're talking a load of rubbish with the Willen players, that's fine. Give us some of your options who you'd like to see signed in January in the next few months, because obviously we need some reinforcements, so it'd be good to get all of your thoughts on who you think could help Swansea for the rest of the season. And on that note, we shall see you in the next video. Don't forget, there's an interview with Kev Johns coming up soon, maybe before the next podcast. We'll see how it goes. So keep your eyes tuned for that one, and we shall see you next time. So have a good one.
See you later.